So the next thing that sort of seems to be the big chunk in your life is the screenwriting side. So did you go back to Royal Holloway to do the course before you started working on actual projects? So what was the sequence of events there? Because I'm sure loads of people would just love to know how to get into screenwriting. It must be an ambition for lots of people who are watching this.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you how I did it. I mean, I ended my career in publishing in around, I think, 2005, about February 2005. And there's a lot of overlap after that. First of all, I wrote some plays from my local.
Ah, okay, right. So I was going to ask you about the plays. So we could do the plays first, if you like.
What kind of happened? Well, there was also a long overlap. The first play, I co-wrote it actually with my friend Sharon Exelby. We wrote this play, and I was supposed to keep myself occupied after that. It's a shock really of going from working full time to not working at all, really. So I used that time to put this play on with the amateur drama group. So it wasn't professional, but we threw ourselves into it, and that was wonderful. By the end of that year, I was thinking what I ought to be doing next, and that was when I started. I signed on for this civil service communications agency, so I did that work, and that was also when I looked into doing an MA in screenwriting. I was really open-minded. I mean, I knew I loved writing. I was looking for something new and different. And while I'd never been a film buff up to that point, I did love film and I loved storytelling. So I thought, well, maybe that's the way to go. And even if it's not, I'll have an MA at the end of it. So it's worth throwing myself into. So I started that MA in January 2006 at Royal Holloway. So I did that. That was a 2-year part-time MA. And in that 2 years, I also continued writing short plays. I also managed to link up with Carl Tibbets, who's a director and screenwriter. He was advertising for a playwright, which I'd just been, to rewrite his film script that he was trying to get off the ground, and that was Retreat.
Ah, right.
That was eventually made. I came on board, rewrote it for him, and stayed on board really until it was made. It was not that was 2007. And it wasn't filmed until 2010. This is the kind of timescale you're looking at in the world of film. And it was released in 2011. And that's pretty good. I mean, 3 or 4 years is a good, fast turnaround for development of a film. So yeah, I learned screenwriting. I learned the craft of screenwriting thoroughly.
Yeah, and for all the job.
Yeah, on the job, and also at that MA gave me a lot of confidence.
Well, it's an extraordinary film because I watched it and you basically predicted COVID. I mean, about 10 years before it actually happened. It's quite extraordinary, even down to the health thing. I couldn't believe it.
Well, as soon as COVID hit, I mean, Carl and I were emailing each other and saying, can't believe what we got right, what we got wrong. We didn't anticipate the hand washing.
Yes.
We missed out.
Yeah.
Other than that, we were pretty spot on.
I think it was quite. I'm looking at it now and knowing that it was made so much, back in time. Think, oh my goodness! I mean, how extraordinary. So, yeah, I mean, and then it was a very good, well, tightly put together film with the 3 central characters. So, yeah, I hadn't heard of it before, I confess, but I can better look at it. I suppose
my screenwriting career really spans lots of years because I worked with Carl on that script for years. And then we continued working together on lots of ideas, and we nearly got there on a lot of them, and then we didn't get anywhere. And by about 2013, 2014, we hadn't had another film made, and lots of reasons for that. The film industry had changed. We both changed as well. We developed as writers and creators in our own rights. So quite amicably, we went our separate ways. And I tried then to get into TV writing.
Right.
And that thereby led in a convoluted way to my novel writing career.
So tell us how that happened, because the TV writing, something else that everybody is listening to is going to avidly waiting to see. What is the secret to get into that?
Well, exactly. I'd like to know the secret of getting into TV. So if anyone out there can tell me, just, I'm on Twitter, email me or send me a message. Yeah, so I attempted to get into TV, so I wrote lots of spec scripts. I had loads of ideas. Um, I watched loads of TV. I really looked forward to the time when I could write for EastEnders and Casualty and all of those. So I tried desperately to get in, and it just didn't happen for me. I tried and tried. I mean, this happens to all writers at every stage in their career, potentially. You'll come up against a block, or what feels like a block, and you just can't move forward, you just can't get anywhere. And this was me there at that particular point. So I did every course, I did every scheme,
Wow.
and I got on lots of schemes. It wasn't that I wasn't getting any um, recognition at all. I won lots of places. I was on in the BBC drama room. So I sent my script off to BBC Writers' Room and was picked for their drama room. I believe you can still do that. You can, keep an eye on
I
their
think you can.
Twitter.
You can.
Really, pretty good. That was excellent. But it didn't get me anywhere. And that was the story of my TV screenwriting career until I took part in a called a Writers Incubator course for Triforce. And so this was another scheme I was on. And I was given a mentor in Cameron Roach, who was the then I think assistant head of drama at Sky. So he was my mentor, and I was having surreptitiously tried to pitch him ideas, and then said, well, I can't get these ideas out. As it is, I've got these characters. I really want to, write these things, and I'm not getting anywhere. And he suggested writing a novel,
Ah,
which I have to say hadn't occurred to me since I'd written an angst-ridden teenage novel at the age of about 19. So I had sort of tried it before, I had done it before, but it hadn't occurred to me sort of in recent years. And so I thought about it and thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. And the idea I was working on for my next spec script was effectively the appeal idea. So one day I stopped writing the script and started writing the novel. As
I
the
suppose
rest
it's
is
kind of
history.
exactly the rest is history. I suppose you can see I mean this in a nice way, the sort of fossilized remains of the script coming through in the structure you chose for the novel, because it is very much, it's the epistolary style. So it's all about communication between two characters, which is, it feels more like a script in some ways than it does like normal narrative prose.
Yeah, it's talking, it's people talking and we're overhearing them. That's kind of the essence of the appeal. That's what makes it so sort of delicious, I suppose. Yeah, you can see the generations of my generation of my writing career, I think, from script to page.
Yes, you could see what you've learnt about conveying character through script without the sort of all the supporting prose around it, saying, describing the characters either from the inside or from the outside in terms of their personalities. You've got to get it all over in what they're saying. So that's quite a skill, which you definitely demonstrate in the first book and indeed later on. So you obviously feel that that's been a really useful background for you in coming up with this way of writing the books.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think every kind of writing I've done up to now has fed into the novel writing career. I mean, novel writing is really, as you know, really intense, and it's kind of lonely, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's intense and you're on your own. All the other kinds of writing, it's not really the case. You've got other people around you. Certainly the case with screenwriting. It's very collaborative. Journalism it can be collaborative as well. It's very open and out there. But novel writing is very intense, and everything I've done to this point has helped one way or another.
Well, I think that's another good piece of advice for anyone listening, that even if you think that something that you're writing might not be getting you anywhere, you'd be surprised how much it helps later down the line. So I think, again, for any aspiring writers, this is a good piece of advice. Keep at it, whatever you're doing.